Who are you?
My name's John Dunford. I am 83 years old. I was born in 1943, so I spent all my childhood in the 40s and 50s. I started school in 1947 or 8, and at a school called Dover Road. I then passed the 11 plus and went on to the Grays Inn Grammar School, which I left in 1959. I left in 1959 and started work as a trainee accountant, mainly because my best subject by a long way was maths. Um, and in those days, I could start work with just a few GCEs.
What was life like living in the 1940s and 50s?
Life in the 1940s and 50s was a lot different to how it is now, mainly because we were, well, the war hadn't finished until 1945. I was I was only two at the time. Um, the the economy wasn't very good because we'd spent all the money on the war. We didn't have There wasn't a lot of money around, and we had rationing. But as a child, I didn't really notice much of that. My mother always made sure that we had a meal on the table. It was always a bit the same, not like today. But it was, yeah, I was well fed, and life was fairly free and easy because we spent all the time playing outside on the road. We didn't we didn't have like we didn't have internet or television like you have now. So we made our own fun. I played a lot of time with other kids on the street, and I think that's how most of us did.
What do you recall about fashion and food?
Fashion, I wasn't really bothered about fashion. In fact, we didn't have a lot of money to do it anyway. Um, but I suppose, got interested in fashion when I started work when I was, what, 15, 16. And then I had a bit of disposable money, and fashion was in the 60s, flares and box jackets and funny haircuts and things. And I, yeah, I went along with it the same as everyone else, really. Um, as for the food's interesting because I said when I was growing up in the early years, rationing was on until sometime in the 50s, and we just ate what my mum could get hold of. Um, Gradually, though, when I got married, things were still pretty much the same. We still had meat and two veg. It was a Sunday roast and a pudding and things like that. But gradually, as people went abroad and rationing finished and things became a lot different, people came. People then had curries and Chinese and Italian stuff, which weren't around. Nobody had even heard of when I when I was in the 40s and, well, perhaps even into the 50s. Um, I don't really know anybody who had been abroad.
When and what was your first job?
My first job was as a trainee accountant. Um, Nowadays, to be a trainee accountant, you've got to go to university and you've got to have a degree. Back then, the only requirement was 5 GCEs, one of which had to be maths, I think. But it didn't pay much. My first paycheck, I think, was something like 17 shillings and eightpence, which is, I've still got the pay slip. I was on £205 a year, and then I managed to get up to 245 in no time at all. Oh, that was like riches. But of course, cost of living was so much cheaper then. But I also did jobs in the. I worked in a wholesale warehouse in the evening, 3 days a week, which paid me quite well, and that enabled me to have quite a good social life. Um, uh, Out of my initial £4 odd a week, I had to give my mum about £1 for housekeeping. This is what you did in those days. Gradually, uh, inflation happened, my wages went up, and they always told me when I started work, if I did things right, I might get up to £1,000 a year. I then got up to 1,000 a year, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. And then it was just numbers, but every time it was the purchasing power that mattered.
How do you think childhood differs from now to then?
Childhood in my day was very free and easy, and was almost what you made yourself. Uh, if you've ever played, we could play cricket using a lamppost as a wicket and things like that. But you could play in the road because there were no cars. Nowadays, I think children spend too much time on computer games and things like that, and that's because the art of playing outside, I think, is largely gone.
Would you have preferred to have grown up then or now?
That's a very good question because I think it stems from how things were and how things are. I mean, I liked how I grew up then, but only because that's all I knew. If I was growing up now, it would be all I know now. I don't, whether I would prefer it or not, I don't know. I mean, if I was growing up now, I would have higher expectations. I would expect to have a computer, I'd expect to have a phone, I'd expect by 18 to have a car. When I was growing up, you didn't get a car when you were 18, you certainly didn't get a phone. All these things just weren't available and hadn't been invented, most of them. I mean, technology has just gone out, well, just gone out of reach because I first time I saw a television was in 1952, which was for the Queen's coronation, when and we had a telly about the size of a little cardboard box with loads of us all sitting around it because that's we were the first ones in the street to have a telly. Ooh, we were posh. No.